All right, welcome everyone to Here for the Horses. Glad you're here for the horses. We have a fun session for today, a fun talk. We're going to continue on with our Fun with Fascia month for January. We're going to do a little bit of review, and then we're going to get into some new stuff, and then and that'll probably wrap that up. I do also want to do a couple videos that I saw. Barbara, the book that we're going to be going off of is Equine Structural Integration. And it's called Myofascia Release Manual. So if anyone can find that link, you give her the really expensive link, like the $200 link. Throw that in the throw that in the comments for her so she can at least see what the book looks like. It's this one. Okay.
Thanks, Erin.
We're going to go over that a little bit. But let's take a look at some videos, shall we? This was a fun week. I really enjoyed watching Tariq. Did you guys see Tariq's? Quite reactive on his serrate. And then I asked her to do a follow-up, and it was a huge improvement. So let's take a quick look at that. We don't have to spend a ton of time doing it, but we'll take a quick look real quick. Oops, someone's in the waiting room. Can't see who it is. Oh, Marin's here. Excellent. Okay. So I gotta move this over here. I haven't finished reading that message yet, Carol. Okay. Oh, did you guys all watch this one? That was funny. Booney. This I just put up. This is Valentino. So I work on this horse a lot. Okay. He's a Frisian stallion, just amazing horse. He's so wonderful. He's so sweet. He was really stuck. And it's interesting because he's upper level dressage. And the rider who rides him normally got injured on a different Frisian. She got a baby Frisian, and I think they were starting him under saddle, and she got injured. So he has not been getting work regularly. And I find it interesting that I work on horses when they go out of work, they also have issues. It's like they need to stay in work, and dressage is hard. I mean, he's upper level, so it's really hard. But since he hasn't been worked, I've noticed a couple things. One, way more muscle tension. Two, his attitude is different. So he was kind of a little fireball in that video. At one point in time, he was getting frustrated, and he like struck out with his front leg 3 times, which cracked me up because he has never done that before. And he's such a good boy that I was like, oh my gosh, Senor. He was very funny. But watch that video because I was working on this boy. And like I said, I've been doing him for years, and I got to the point where I was almost telling the owner, I was like, we might need to bump him off my schedule because he's in such good shape. And now he's back on it because he was really stuck in his right side neck. So you can see what I went through in order to get him freed up. Oh, this lady is hilarious. So I just found her. And one, she's from Europe, and so I love that. And she says they say words like waffle, and that means like to blather on about stuff. And so I'm gonna start using that word. Just gonna start using it because it's cool. But she talks about how she doesn't like carrot stretches either. And I was like, you are my people. So you can watch this video. I don't put a ton of stuff up from other people just because I try to kind of keep it to our group, but she says the same thing that I say, but she's really nice about it. So that's nice. Oh yeah, so here's Tariq. This is the follow-up. Let's really quickly watch the original. Tariq. Okay, let's watch this real quick. I'm just going to show a little bit so you can see his opinion about stuff. I did the serrate on my horses. Here is Turkey. There. So that was a little, yep. Oh yeah, look at that. Good job putting your hand on that halter there, Marge. See how that helps? So go ahead and give him some slaps because he's telling you that's too aggressive. That's a little lean. There you go. Good job on the slapping. He goes, that's better, Mom. Thank you. Yeah. There. See how much that helped? See how much that helped though to do the slapping? So do the slapping a little bit harder again. And give him yeah, is that the leg or is it the other one? It's the other one. That's a lot of tension he has in there. Oh. Oh, oh my goodness. Good job. Got that out. Okay. So you guys can see how reactive he was, right? Pretty obvious that he did not, and that was pretty specifically the serrate. It was in the front of the scapula and in the back of the scapula. A lot of emotions about that. It was definitely sensitive because he's the chiller of the two, right? But when you find a spot on him that he doesn't like, he's very clear about it. So I think, I don't remember what my advice was, but I asked her to do it again, incorporate more slapping. And I loved the intensity that she was using. I mean, she wasn't doing it light. She was doing it hard. And that's a huge improvement, Marge, for you. Great job.
Thank you.
Because you need to get it out, you know?
Yeah, he needed it, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and so in case some of you don't know, his left leg, he has a hard time picking it up and taking it back, correct, Marge?
Yeah, he can't back up with it. And
He
he
can't
drags
back
his
up with
toe.
it.
He drags his toe when he goes forward. And sometimes he
Okay.
falls. He'll trip on
Yeah.
his toe.
Yeah. So in this case, I kind of asked her, is this I was kind of hoping it was this leg because then I was thinking maybe we can loosen that up and they'll see an improvement, but it was the other leg. And so this is compensation. Pretty
Yeah,
sure.
probably. Yeah.
Pretty sure. Okay. So lots of tension, this is lots of tension. Okay. And she did a great job going back and forth from the slapping uh, to the rubbing, but he needed that. So let's take a look at the second one here. Okay, here we go. Right. Look at that. That time he just, you know, came and went, Look at that. Amazing. Much better. There. Okay, fidget. That fidget is him dealing with his emotions. So if you're able, I would let him there on something because it's better than fidgeting on you. There, look at that. There you go. There's the release. Nice. There you go. This is much better. Yeah, I like that. Good. Okay, so that is a big improvement. I'm super happy about quite a few things. One, she switched from pressing and rubbing to slapping, and that helped him. Two, hand on the halter. This is a perfect example. She just nailed it. Okay. So hand on the halter, it protects you, keeps them from coming into you and keeps them from biting you. Okay. Because he needs this work. I understand. I understand. He's upset about it and it doesn't feel great. Okay. And he's trying to tell you to stop, but he needs it, right? And you can see on the second video how much better he got, how much less emotional he was about it. So that's a huge improvement. I'm super happy with that. Great job, Marge.
Thank you.
That was awesome. Okay, so that was a cool video. Hi, Maren, how are you? Okay, so that was one thing I wanted to look at. And then I showed you the Valentino. Let me look real quick and see if there's anything else I wanted to show you. Oh, Carol. Carol had a situation. Carol, why don't you come on and tell us, if you guys hadn't seen that video yet of Minnie and Anna, that was cool. So similar situation where a horse is pretty emotional and doesn't want to be messed with. I'll show it to you real quick. I'm not gonna show you the video. I'll show you what it looks like. Share this one right here. If you haven't seen this one yet, check it out because she did a great job. And there were a lot of improvements in that 6 minutes with this horse. So again, kind of this is an emotional mare, very defensive of certain areas being pressed on, and she did a great job. Okay. So Carol, tell us about what you wrote to me today.
Well, I've been investigating hoof webinars because I have an IR mare that's been struggling. I mean, for 11 years, we've had problems, and it's really gotten worse in the last year and a half. So I've learned a whole bunch of stuff. And while I was watching all these webinars and my brain's ready to explode with information, I think I sent you the picture. I don't know if you can share it, but there was a slide, because there's a whole bunch of dissections. So I've been looking at a lot of, dissected feet and slides of feet. And there was one, it was Dr. Bob Bowker. I don't know if any of you have heard of him. But he is one of the progressive vets that has, is done a lot of research. And it shows, I think it's the second one I sent you is a better picture.
Okay, hold on.
And it even says, it said, I'm, looking at all this stuff and absorbing, and all of a sudden it said fascial sheets. And there's all this fascia in the digital cushion, and it's connected to the sides, like the collateral sides, and it's connected to the frog, and it's connected, it goes off in all these different directions to P1, P2, and P3, to the lateral cartilage. Yep. So it forms the internal structure of the foot. It holds everything together. It's I was like, hey, that's what we're studying.
Yeah, and remember, well, I'll find the quote actually. Remember in this book, it said one of the cute little things was that fascia goes from the tips of the ears to the hooves.
Yeah.
No joke. Okay.
So yeah, all
talks
those lines you see in there are sheets of fascia.
Right here? This or this?
It's that. Yep.
Okay.
And above, if you look up at the top of the picture, is the DDFT attached to the navicular bone.
Okay.
the light colored stuff
Mhm.
up there. Yeah, it's really incredible the information that's out there. And I'm supposed to have shoes put on, glue on shoes on Tuesday, and I think I'm gonna cancel the appointment. A vet, it's just there's so many recommendations, and I feel like I don't know enough to be an advocate yet.
Wow, it's
So,
tough. That's a tough situation.
yeah. So and there's a ligament in the digital cushion. I don't know if you knew this. It's called the CCU ligament. It is if I heard it correctly, it's a competal chondral ungular ligament.
Oh yeah, one of
And
those.
yeah, okay. So, who knew? This is crazy stuff, right? Well, this was in the vet books. This is what Ida Hammer was talking about. It was in the veterinary, anatomy books until 1940, and then they just took it out.
Oh,
They just took it out. And now, it's being quote unquote rediscovered, fairly recently. So there's just crazy stuff with feet.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and fascia.
Yeah.
Fascia's crazy. Okay.
Yes.
So cool. Thank you for sharing that with us. It's always fun to kind of learn more cool stuff, right? And how things are all tied together, right? Well, we're going to talk about it today, that the horse is one system. And in order to learn, we break them into a bunch of different systems, don't we? We break them into muscles, we break them into bones, we break them into fascia, but they're one system. And so we do need to constantly be remembering that. Barbara, what is your dog doing back there? Is your dog doing research on the computer? What's happening?
Yeah, she's our office companion. Yeah, and she does
She taking
assistant
notes,
work.
secretary?
Sometimes she actually rules the roost.
Oh, I know. I hear you. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so let's do some review for what we learned last week. So feel free to write in the notes, write in the comments if you want, or you can unmute and answer. Okay, so I sent out an email. You may have received that, and then that's what we're going to review. But what is fascia called? The organ of what?
Form.
Form. The organ of form. Form, F-O-R-M, form. Why is it called the organ of form?
Is it because it has the whole body?
Yep, that's one reason. Goes from the tips of the ears to the feet, as Carol just pointed out. What's another reason? This one was kind of interesting because in the book, he says that he has a fellow colleague that has studied fascia, and that if you were to, he used the example of a thigh, remove all the bone, remove all the muscle, remove all the water, remove all the skin, you would still be able to tell that that was a thigh based off the interweb of fascia. So fascia keeps the form of the body. Okay. So you would have still been able to tell that that was the thigh of a human being. Yep, it holds everything together. Yes. If you removed everything in it, it would just look like kind of like a little ghost outline of whatever the item is. Okay. It is composed of three things. Name one. Unmute, Sarah. Oh, she's looking at the football, the Lions. Darn them. Collagen. Okay, name another one.
Elastin.
Elastin. Okay, and name the third one. It's a 2-word.
Reticular fibers.
Yep, reticular fibers. Out of those 3, which one is the most firm?
Collagen.
Collagen. And which one's the most elastic?
Elastin.
Elastin. And what do the reticular fibers do? They have a job. Bind? Oh, not, they don't bind, but that's close. They deposit. Okay? They deposit. They put down the elastin and the collagen. So depending on the situation, does it need more elastin? Does it need more collagen? The reticulated fibers put those down. Okay? What is fascia suspended in? What is the substance called?
Are you looking for ground?
Yep,
Okay.
ground substance. Okay? That's what it's all in, a ground substance. It's such a weird name, isn't it?
So is that fluid-like? Is that
Well, excellent.
something more rigid?
Excellent segue, Wanda.
Okay. Okay. Never
The
mind.
ground substance is made up of what percentage of water?
This is the 70% or something.
70%
It's high.
water.
Okay.
Yep. 70% water. So when fascia is on the healthier side, it's very fluid. Okay. Now, there's going to be a difference between the fascia that is supporting tendons and ligaments, and there's going to be a difference between the fascia that's supporting organs, like the lungs. And the reason that is because the fascia supporting the lungs better be pretty flexible. Yep, exactly, Leanne. And then you don't want the fascia supporting the ligaments to be extra flexible, do you? That's how you get them dropped ankles and stuff like that, right? It's a breakdown in that system. Okay. There are 2 ways to manipulate fascia. What are they?
By hand.
Pressure. Yep. What? Go ahead, Carrie.
I said by hand, manipulate.
Yes, manipulating. Okay, what else? Pressure and manipulating. One more. That goes with pressure. I agree, Leanne. Yep. There's one other they talked about in the book.
Stretching.
Stretching. Stretching and manipulation.
I have a
Okay.
question.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I heard was fascia doesn't like pressure. Is that true? It doesn't like a
Well,
constant pressure. It likes pressure and release.
Okay, according to this book, well, let me see if I can find it. Who remembers what this book says? Aha, I just found it. That was quick. It's on page 21 for those of you that are going to get this book. It says, and I quote, "The pressure has to be sustained for some minimum time, 90 seconds or so, for the thixotrophy to occur, which accounts for the reason why most massage consisting of the application of faster strokes does not greatly influence the fascia. However, this 90 seconds is more of a guideline than a rule." Okay, so according to this book, and I'll let them duke it out, I'm not going to get involved. It does respond to pressure, but slow, consistent pressure for approximately 90 seconds. So it does not like fast, quick friction.
So, so I didn't make a post, but I did do the fascia on all 4 horses this week. And the interesting thing is 90 seconds is longer than you think.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm counting and, you know, at 60 seconds, most of them would really probably prefer I move on to something else. But
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting because I did try to do it for at least the 90 seconds.
Yeah, and what's funny is I found out how long time really is when, you know, for trigger points they tell
That's
you
what I was
to
gonna say.
hold deep. You are
Yeah.
they tell you to hold the deep pressure for like 45 seconds, and it's just like you hold deep pressure on a trigger point on a horse for 45 seconds, you are not their friend. And I have found that I mean, it obviously depends, but 20 seconds is plenty. 20 seconds is a fair amount of time. It's not like you're just kind of ignoring it. So, yeah, seconds might seem might seem short, but when you're doing body work, it's a difference. Okay.
When I had,
Thanks, Leanne. That's cool.
when I had
Yeah,
a
go,
person,
Michelle.
when I had a person do body work, the fascia release on Betty, it took her almost I would say she spent an hour and a half, maybe even one session was 2 hours. And I was like, this is driving me nuts.
Yeah.
But it was those little touches all over her body, and it wasn't pressing hard, it was pressing light, but it was like people are saying like the 90, you know, it probably was 90 seconds every time she touched a part on her body. And I could tell Betty was getting a little antsy, wanting to walk
Yeah.
around, you know, the pasture and stuff, but
Yeah, 2 hours is a long time for a horse,
yeah,
you know, in general.
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool though. And it's good that I mean, it helps, right? But, you gotta be careful when your horse starts tapping out and you've only done half of it. You're gonna have a problem. As Sue and I figured out with the advanced course, because I had drawn on half of her horse's body, so she didn't do a ton of massage on that half of that horse's body. And then the next day, the owner was like, "Yeah, she's lame," and I was like, "What?" She was lame because we only massaged half of her body. It was pretty wild. So I told the owner, I'm like, go massage the other half of her body, and that fixed it. So yeah, it's pretty wild how that, I mean, that really solidified how amazing body work is, and 2, like that horse is lame the next day because only half of her body got done. And then 2, like it's important to get all the way through, right? It's important. So if you're working on a thoroughbred, you better make that 90 seconds about 30 seconds and hope that it works, because thoroughbreds, they do not have 2 hours in them unless they are like, you know. Okay. All right. Awesome job. You guys did great. Okay, cool. So we're going to move on here. And there's a lot of really cool stuff today. We talk a little bit about injuries today. Oh my gosh. Sarah says a class I'm in for fascia release for humans requires 3 minutes of pressure for release. Oh, jeez. I'd be like, I need a massage. Forget this. Okay, so lack of movement in the fascial web, which could occur, for example, with a poorly fitted equipment, can cause reduction in tissue hydration. Okay. So that's going to come up a little bit later, but remember the ground substance is 70% water. This lack of hydration, especially within the ground substance, allows the collagen fibers to come close together and form hydrostatic bonds with each other. You might think to yourself, that sounds great. Nope. Okay. This bond, similar to a snag in a t-shirt, reduces the fascia's ability to accommodate movement. This can also lead to further strain patterns as fascia movement is reduced, thus setting up a cycle of strain and adaptation. All of these can lead to a movement pattern that is accommodating this strain and not as efficient. So I found that little photo. Let me pull it up here. Y'all, some of you will remember it. I don't know, what did I do? Nope. Oh. Where did it go? I'll just find a new one, seeing I've misplaced it. Hold on. I'll share it so you guys can watch me search. We can all do it together. Oh, here it is. Okay. So this is an example of when the fascia has gotten pulled, strained, or has adhesions. Okay, and you can see how it influences the entire band of fascia. I love this visual. So good. Okay, so this accommodation of strain can lead to problems in the joints. For example, especially if the soft tissue pulls on the joints, the soft tissue pull on the joints are not balanced. This lack of soft tissue balance around the joint can cause a rotation and a shortening. This can lead to one portion of the joint surface being worn more quickly from receiving more compression forces. This is one example of how a joint becomes arthritic. Okay. So I found that pretty interesting. Go ahead.
Well, this week I noticed, you know, Ellie is, I'd have to do the math, but 23-ish now. And all of a sudden it seems like she moves her neck and it pops, you know, you hear the sound. She steps backward and it makes a sound. Is any of that related to fascia? Is that, I mean, I know it's probably a joint or something popping. Happens to my knee, old age.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like that's obviously not the the sounds of a fully functioning system. So it's the sound of a breakdown somewhere in the system. Is it fascia? Is it muscular? Is it joint on joint? You know, what is it? Who knows, really? So it's fun to try different stuff out and see what helps, right? So now you're gonna have more tools you can kind of play around with some of the fascia that we're going to be doing next week and see if there's an improvement. Like my gelding, when he was getting older, his stifles started popping. Okay, you know that popping sound they make? Well, I was like, why did these stifles start popping all of a sudden? And so I was looking at his tensor fascia latae, which is that triangular muscle that flexes the hip and brings the leg, you know, kind of forward and up, right? And it was atrophied a little bit. So I go, okay, well, let me see what I can do to build that muscle up. Now, what everybody always says to do, which I don't agree with, is do hill work, do hill work. Well, cool, if you have a perfect hill in your backyard, which most people don't. So I decided to do pole work instead to get him to pick up those back feet a little bit more. And as I improved his TFL, the popping went away. So that was a breakdown in muscle. And I have noticed that as the TFL on horses starts to break down, There's a lot of hip issues and stifle issues that occur. So that's similar to what they're saying here, is that when something gets weakened or damaged, it's going to put pressure on the joints and can cause arthritis.
What's TFL?
Tensor fascia latte.
Thank you.
Hip flexor. So it sounds like there might be a breakdown of some sort in some system. So we try to figure that out as we go. Process of elimination. It'll be interesting to see. Okay. Let's see. The next thing it says, these strain patterns can be cumulative. I'm so glad they brought that up because muscle tension is also cumulative. Okay. Building on each other over time. With this strain pattern, accumulation can come a time where the horse's body breaks down and we erroneously believe that it was an acute incident rather than a long-term buildup of small insults. This is what is commonly known as layering. Layering. And then here's a little definition of layering. Layering of patterns can also result in our chasing after physical symptoms as one layer is, oh, this is cool. Wanda, you brought this up once. Layering of patterns can also result in our chasing after physical symptoms as a layer is removed and reveals the symptom of another layer. Keep this layering concept in mind as you work on symptoms. If you find that you're relieved one symptom and another has replaced it, you may need to step back and reevaluate your strategy and incorporate more balancing of tissue, which is a more holistic way of working with fascia. I can't remember if that was you, Wanda, or something, but I remember somebody saying, I worked on my horse and then the stuff that I was working on went away, but then new stuff came up.
I think that was that little mare that the other farrier couldn't get the shoe on the front foot. And we went over a few days later and, I was expecting it to be a hind foot, but it was that front foot and she just couldn't bring it forward. So, we went through the whole thing. We got the shoe on. She was fine. She's a regular client now. We went back, I don't know, on a 7 or 8 week rotation and no problems with that foot, but the opposite kind of shoulder scapula area was a hot button site.
Okay.
So that day we work on that. And I think Jeremy reset her. And then we've been back one time since to pull her shoes for the winter. And it's like you're describing, it's just like peeling an onion, right? We addressed the first issue. It was better. That second issue appeared further back and on the other side. And then the third time we were there, it was back on the original side, that right front, but it was more in the shoulder. And actually, she's really touchy up in the wither area. So in the back of my mind is this is a saddle fit issue that has started all this. She's a team sorting horse and she's not very big. The gal that owns her is not super big either, but so anyhow, so I think it's just these slight injuries have layered up. And then finally she said no to the other shoer. She just said no. And we can kind of get along with those horses because we're looking for other things other than just the disobedience. And the last time we were there, I mean, she came to the gate, she wanted a cookie, it was all better. And as a side note, now we have her gelding roommate as a regular client too, because that horse got in trouble with the farrier too. So anyhow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So there's some real life, real world experiences with this stuff that we're learning. And great example there. Isn't that cool? So you got to love that. That's awesome. So that's called layering. I didn't actually knew that. I would always say, yeah, you can go in, fix something, come back and something else is messed up. That's how I describe it. Okay. So that's called layering. Now we all know. Okay. Then there was the part that I skipped about more anatomy. Fascia adhesions, collagen and elastin are continually being laid down by what? Fibroblasts. and organizing along the mechanical lines of strain in the fascia. As mentioned before, the more powerful and sustained the force of the strain, the thicker the fascia, right? So we talked about that, how we want the fascia to be thicker for tendons and ligaments and anything that's under a lot more strain. Will be in the area to compensate for the strain. One common adhesion that we are all familiar with is scar tissue. So we're going to talk a little bit about scar tissue here. Scar tissue is collagen and elastin fascia that is deposited in areas of lucrativity injury. The injury heals through the action of the reticular fibers pulling the edges of the laceration together and forming a framework for the collagen, elastin, and ground substance. Unfortunately, if there is an absence of an organizing force on the scar tissue, and we talked a little bit about that, to align the collagen and elastin, the scar will become a random array of collagen and elastin with little mobility. And remember, there was this photo of that. Okay. So if there's no force telling it to lay down straight, it's going to lay down all wonky. Okay. Let's see. It'll leave little mobility. If the original laceration was extensive, this lack of organization in the scar can cause a disruption in the fascia's ability to move smoothly. This is a common issue with the castration scars of geldings, the gelding scars. We've probably all heard of that. I'm actually going to be working on my first gelding scar in a week. So pray for me because I'm going to try not to get kicked. It's not.
Oh, this has been a couple years ago, and I think it was with our other group we had right after your first session. But anyway, we were going through something, and they were saying that you needed to pay attention to those gilding scars. And with my two gildings, the one thing I noticed, they were talking about if it's cold to touch. That means
Okay.
there's good circulation in there and to warm it up, you know. And so I did that several different times with both Buckaroo and Adobe that, that year. And now I just periodically check them, and they're normally warm to touch. So I figured that whatever was the issue, I helped. But that was what they were saying, was if they're cool to touch, it's a warm part of their body. It should not be cold.
Right on. Thank you, Leanne. I will let everybody know how the temperature is. That's awesome. Okay, so it says, if not released, they can cause a movement problem with the rear legs. We kind of all know that. And discomfort, right? It's going to be uncomfortable. Similarly, when there is little movement between muscle groups, there is a layup for injury recovery. Remember the butte and rest discussion that we had? The fascia sheaths can be hydrostatic bonds. These bonds are known as adhesions. Adhesions between the myofascial sheaths surrounding muscles can cause them to lose their independent movement. These myofascial adhesions between adjoining muscles can cause the muscle to drag its neighboring muscles' fascia sheath into every contraction or extension. This not only creates a very inefficient movement, but can set up the muscle imbalances and torsions discussed earlier. Okay, so what it's saying is that if there's adhesions, it's going to drag other parts into that. So that's very common in scar tissue. So scars themselves can't be helped too much by massage. That's what I tell people. The scars themselves can't, but everything else around it can. So if they've had a lot of scar tissue for a while, then the muscles around it are going to be influenced. So you want to make sure that you keep those as healthy as possible on a regular basis. I thought this next sentence was hilarious. And they said, because fascia and muscles are responsible for moving the bag in which the bones are contained, restricted fascia could pull a horse's bones out of proper joint alignment, causing dysfunctional movement patterns, which would result in increased joint wear. Okay, so now it's saying that with these, well, one, I love it that it's called the bag in which the bones are contained. That's cool. But these fascias can pull the horse's bones out of proper joint alignment. So what's the rule about chiropractic? Always massage before chiro. Always massage before chiro. That Frisian stallion that I worked on in the video that I told you guys you should watch. It's like a 20-minute video. I worked on the horse's neck for like 20 minutes and I cut out like half of it. You send a chiropractor, you'll see he kind of spins me around a little bit. It doesn't look as bad as it felt. And you know, like when you're riding and your horse does a crow hop and you're like, oh my gosh, they bucked. And then you see like a video and you're like, oh, it's just a crow hop. It just felt like a buck. So that was similar with working with him. He's not big. He's not big as in tall, but his head is huge and his neck is enormous. Okay. And it just goes straight up. He was kind of winging me around a little bit. So I promise you, if you were to send a chiro in there without me loosening him up first, that chiro is going to be flying. Oh, I have learned that fascia adheres to bones at 2,000 pounds per pressure. We heard that, didn't we? Didn't we talk about that last week? Something about 2,000 pounds? And I was like, I don't know about that. That's crazy. That was definitely, oh yeah, right here. Man, I'm good at finding this stuff. Oh, okay, this says tendons can hold approximately 2,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. Similar. And then we joked about how there's like a little tendon hanging from the sky with a 2,000 pound weight at the bottom of it. Okay, so yeah, adhesions. And then he goes into this funny, well, adhesions this tight fascia can lead to the bones being pulled out of proper alignment, which can lead to what? Joint wear, which leads to what? Arthritis. Okay, so these can be compound on each other. Then it goes in to say, adhesions can also develop within the fascial sheaths themselves when collagen fibers become intertwined and attract each other. This can happen because of a reduction in the hydration. We're back to hydration again of the tissue. You can imagine what it feels like if you've ever put on some clothes that were a little too tight and restricted your movement. This is interesting. He went into this. A comedic example of this has been seen in the movie Men in Black, where one of the characters from another planet inhabits the skin of a human. Unfortunately for him, the bodysuit doesn't fit him very well. The actor does a great job of showing the effects of a shortened fascia on movement. You guys remember that part? That big old cockroach guy? Wanda, it's movie night. Yeah, it's a big old cockroach guy shoved into a human body bag thing. Okay. Then it says fascia release works to remove this intra and intramuscular adhesion, thereby allowing the body to move more effectively. Perfect. Oh, here's one I disagree with a little bit. Let's talk about it. Range of motion. You know how I feel about range of motion. Oh, hold on. I'll come back to it. Fascia release works to remove these intra and intermuscular adhesions, thereby allowing the body to move more efficiently. Just as importantly, removing these adhesions allows the joints to move in their intended plane of motion without rotation because of restricted soft tissue. Myofascia release can also remove pressure put on nerves, veins, and arteries that is created by fascial adhesions within the fascial pathways that these vital structures occupy. So, as we know, we're just talking about this is a whole system, and this is really talking about how this is a whole system, okay? So pretty cool there. That's the end of that part. Let me talk a little bit about range of motion though. Says range of motion is defined as a movement range that a body part, usually a joint, can move through before coming to a barrier. it is further delineated as, there's two types of range of motion. Passive range of motion is the range of motion that another person, in this case, can take the part through while the horse is not resisting the movement. For example, taking the shoulder forward and backward to a natural stopping point. We all know how to do this. This is what we do. This guy says, passive range of motion is hard to judge with another being that doesn't communicate verbally with us. We have to be able to tell the other not to resist our movement of their body part. It is even hard to judge with other humans that may unintentionally resist us. Basically, we take the leg, for instance, and move it, protract or retract until we reach a barrier or restriction to the movement. This range of motion, which is the maximum available motion in that particular joint, muscle, or fascia system. Well, I must disagree, sir. I feel that we have all done very well actually taking our horses through passive range of motion and waiting for the relaxation to occur, right? Because that's what we're doing. We're not telling them to do a range of motion. We're waiting for them to do a range of motion. And we don't continue with the range of motion until they're actually relaxed. And at this point in time, horses don't care at all. They're very relaxed when we take them through a range of motion. So I did disagree slightly with that. I'll give this Jim guy a call. I'll tell him, hey, come take my course, man. I'll show you what's up. All right. So active range of motion is the range of motion that the horse has access to actively in normal movement. The horse will move the body part until it meets a barrier and not proceed further. It is the program of meeting a barrier that causes the resistance to the movement beyond this point, encountered in the passive range of motion test. Now, this was interesting. I guess if you think about it, it makes sense, but it says usually the most motion of passive range of motion is greater than that of active range of motion. Active range of motion is limited by the barriers or restrictions that are incorporated into the nervous system movement map. Passive range of motion does not require the use of the subject's nervous system. Increasing active range of motion is a benefit in myofascial release. So you are going to have a greater range of motion with passive range of motion. Which, if you think about it, when we are moving their leg and they are relaxed, we are able to move it in a greater range of motion than they do out in the pasture, right? They don't move their legs in that wild of range of motion out in the pasture. They're going to have a nervous system that says, don't do that. That's going to mess you up later. Okay. So that was kind of cool. All right. Any questions on that? Man, 5:59, bam. How awesome.
I had just a comment on that last one because I kind of disagree with the statement they don't have a greater range of motion, because I have seen my horses playing and bucking and kicking out in the pasture, and there's no way I've never ever done that in passive range of motion. Now I'm saying when they're just walking maybe or trotting, but when they start playing, they can get some. And I've seen my horses, particularly Mystic Knight, do a downward dog where she stretches her feet way much forward than I ever do passively. So I think, I mean, they may hit a barrier, but when they're playing hard, I don't think they care.
Yeah, I think what this reminds me of is definitely like just when they're walk, trot, canter in kind of a normal
Right.
movement. I think I agree with you that, you know, when they're, but I mean, that would be like an active, I mean, that would almost be just where they're pushing their limits, you know, when they buck and play and do all that stuff. I mean, look at a horse that's in a dead run.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
gonna be that's gonna be a real big range of motion.
It's when they have an adrenaline spike.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
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 Or they're fight or
Yeah.
flight. You know, they're getting out of there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, we'll write to him about that too, Leon. I do like this person though, because he is kind of like, I mean, this isn't in every case, which I like that. I like that approach because we don't know what we're talking about half the time. You know? Cool. Any other questions? Let's see. What's the homework for this week? We're going to be talking about actual myofascial release next week. So let's make this week, what have I done recently that was interesting? Let me look on Facebook real quick. Oh, you know what we should do? Let's do, let's all be inspired. Hold on, let me pull it up. Let's be inspired by, this will be good. Boop. Please pull up. Zoom doesn't want to listen to me right now. Nope. No, cancel. Hold on. We're going to do the jaw release. Okay. So everybody watch. Sue, this is for you. We're going to do the jaw release. We're going to be inspired by Sue and the video that she has on her. Why is this not letting me come back to you guys? I'm stuck out in no, oh, come on. Stuck in no man's land right now. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I'm back. Man, that was annoying. Okay, here we go. Let's be inspired by Sue working on the jaw release with Boone, and we will all do a jaw release this week. Okay, so remember, this is little Booney pants. This is to relax their jaw. So what you're going to want to do first, before you do the jaw release, rub the masseter, rub the masseter. Find the sausages. Okay, so rub the masseter. To find sausages, you go, and I do have a video, you go across the masseter, and then you'll find the speed bumps, right? Speed bumps. To release the speed bumps, you go with them. To release the sausages, you go with them. Okay, so do that first. You can do a little TMJ work if you want to. So you might want to and see what's up with that. You can do a little hyoid work before that. Hyoid. Just gently rub it. And then I want you to do your jaw release, top and bottom. So what's the bottom? Okay. Finger goes in, you link underneath so that they don't suck your finger back into their mouth, and you wait. Okay. So let's there's a couple methods when they don't like this. So let's watch. So my finger links underneath that jaw and keeps my there. Okay, that's for the bottom. For the top, thumb, roof of the mouth, loop your fingers over the top of your horse's nose. If you can. I noticed when I was working with him, he has a really big nose. So my fingers barely went over the top of his nose, and I have big hands. So when their nose is too big, and it doesn't happen too often with me, I'll go to the top and then I link onto the halter. Okay. If I have to. Okay. So you're going to flip thumb, middle of the mouth, over the nose. Hold until they release. Releasing the jaw is not going, oh, just stick your finger in there and it'll release it. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. You have to hold it till it releases. Okay. Now I don't teach to rub it, except in certain situations, like with little Booney pants here, he didn't want to release. So you can see all the, he was trying to pick me up, son. I weigh too much, boy. Okay. So this is a great example of how important that hand on the halter is. He'd have thrown me around and knocked me out by now if I didn't have that on there. And then you have to do both sides. Now you're waiting for cow chewing cud action. So they go from this to, oh, okay. All right. Okay. Got it. All right. Okay. So you're waiting for that relaxation. Then you can give them a break. You don't have to torture them like I tortured him. Okay. But you want it to actually cow chew cud for a period of time that shows you that they actually released it. That's why the finger in the mouth, oh, cool, they released. That's not it. That's not it. You didn't get it. Okay. And then do both sides. Because the action of the tongue movement is what actually releases the jaw. So you'll see on some of them, the tongue comes out and it's all flapping against the back of my hand and it's crazy. Okay. So jaw release. And then I'll see if there are some other videos. I know I just did a couple crazy jaw releases where they were very similar to this. This is extreme. This is not a normal reaction. Okay. So, very rarely are they this reactive about it. They'll do this for about 3 seconds and then not even 3 seconds, 2 seconds. And then they're like, ah, that's too much work. Okay. So don't expect your horse to act like that. But let's try the jaw release for this week. Okay. That's the plan. Mojo had teeth floated and a tooth pulled last week. Heck yeah. Will a jaw release be beneficial now or should I wait? Absolutely do it now. Okay. One of the things I talk about is after dental work, massage the jaw. Now, if they had ulcers on the side of their mouth, this is one way that you can tell is when you go to massage the masseter and they're freaking out. You want to check their teeth to make sure they don't have hooks that are causing issues on the side of their mouth. And if they have ulcers, those need to heal before you do this. But if they didn't have ulcers, your vet should have told you if they had ulcers or not. Yeah, after teeth get done, TMJ, jaw, masseter, jaw release, hyoid, maybe, pole, maybe, right? Depending on how your tooth person does it, right? Sometimes they normally put those things in and crank their mouth open. So, for sure. Thanks for that question, Kay. Excellent. All right, so let's give that a try. That's the plan. Blizzard coming through, ice, no excuses, Nancy. Nope, get out there. Bundle up. I saw that picture of you all bundle up once. All right. All right, that's all I got. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful evening. See ya. Post those questions. See you guys.
Bye.
You're welcome, Kate.
Bye.
Bye-bye, Kate.
Erin.